what I've been working on this week.
What's up? And by the way, SK's always working on something, and it's always next level, and that's why I'm always like, "What's up?" Like I have no clue. Sometimes I get my mind blown to the mat. What's going on?
FaceApp.
Oh, I've been reading so many bad articles.
I have too.
I regret using that app already, just reading these crazy articles. But even then, I'm like, all right, what are y'all really gonna do? You know, it's Russian-based apparently, and
Yep.
I didn't even know it was Russian-based.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I remember when I was like giving it access, it asked me. It was like a warning. It was like, you know, and shit. You know, I do this all the time. I read the fine print.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
mean,
like,
as an attorney, I'm sure you pay more attention than the average person.
But guess what I did? I was like,
Fuck it.
I didn't even say fuck it. It was just like, it was subconscious. It was like, accept.
I mean, what are you going to do if you don't accept it?
Yeah,
or
and
use
I'm
it?
like,
So
yo, this is like
you're
every
missing
single
out.
person is doing it. I'm trying to see what I look like when I get old. And then I see all these articles. I'm like, oh, I gave all my photo data away. I gave all my data away. Oh, they can do anything they want. Well, I'm like, what are they really going to do? But even then, it's like one thing is I've given it all away. Apparently, allegedly.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, do I really care? And so you have like these two, you know, I kind of care. I'm conflicted about that.
I've been reading the same articles.
Yeah.
And this is what I found really interesting. What I find really interesting about the whole FaceApp frenzy when it comes to privacy is Washington Post, everybody's talking about a Russian-based company. FaceApp is owned by Wireless Labs, which has an R&D branch in Russia, right? So all these articles are flooding the internet. They're trending. FaceApp is a Russian app, you know, stealing your facial ID data, all this crazy shit.
But how did they train the AI?
Well,
They had so many facial.
that aside, right?
Yeah.
Like before you even get there, I'm going through article, and my first thought is like, holy shit, the Russians are doing something crazy. They're funneling this data. They're accessing your photos without your permission. But the more I read, people actually, like engineers, have chimed in and they've said, you know what, FaceApp isn't doing anything sketchy. They're doing fairly normal and mundane procedures and protocols.
This is the general terms of services in the industry, right?
Well, I mean, I don't even, before it's even related to terms of service, they're not doing anything crazy. They're taking your photo, the ones you submit. They're not going in your phone and scraping up all. They're taking the photos you submit. They're using AWS, which is Amazon's cloud.
Yep.
They're using Google's cloud.
Yep.
After some time, I think they delete it, and they're not sending any information back to the servers outside of like metadata.
So
it's nothing
So
sketchy.
it's all staying here within Amazon and Google.
It's nothing sketchy,
Yeah.
right? So it occurred to me that the only story behind FaceApp is that it's a Russian-based app, and that has people shook. Right?
Because of the whole
Cambridge
thing,
Analytica, 2016 U.S. election scandal.
all of it. Yeah.
Understandably so. So that got me thinking, because honestly, I didn't know it was Russian when I used it. And backtrack, I didn't even use it.
Yeah.
My brother sent me a picture of my face that's already been aged, and they got me thinking.
But they already have your face on there now.
This girl I got on Facebook was like, I'm not giving my data away. I'm like, yo, listen,
You don't need to, because I have your data.
Your friends are running your face on there. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I have so many people. You know what? I ran your thing too.
yeah.
Like I have everyone's picture. I was so curious. Before I read any articles, I ran all my close people. And then I read, I was like, oh shit, I feel bad for all y'all.
So before you say that FaceApp doesn't have my data, think twice. Think about your friends and what you don't know. There's a good chance they might.
Yeah.
But that aside, man, I'm like, okay, so this is a Russian company, and that has people shook. No one's doing anything sketchy. All the procedures are fairly normal.
Yeah.
So it really got me thinking, man. How many people would have opted out of downloading it had they known it was a Russian-based app? Right? I don't know. But there was articles saying, here's the quickest way you should delete it, and this is why you should get rid of it, and tutorials on how to get, FaceApp off your phone. So it got me thinking, man. I did some research.
American-based? No, I'm kidding.
No, but once upon a time, we put food into our body without knowing what it was. Processed food was increasing in market stores, in stores across the country, and there was no ingredients, there's no labels until the FDA stepped in. Yep. I think in the late 60s or early 70s, and then mandated from here on out, if you manufacture food, you need to disclose what's going into it. So it got me thinking, maybe it's time for nutritional apps, nutritional labels for our apps.
You're saying like a FDA kind of thing where we have like a body that regulates disclosure requirements for apps.
Maybe not regulate, but maybe disclose. So
that would be the disclosure requirements, you know.
But I wouldn't even require. No,
okay.
But here's the thing, right? Those requirements are already disclosed in the terms of service.
Okay.
The problem is nobody reads terms of service. So the next step is like, okay, terms of service are these this lengthy document that usually takes over an hour. I think they did a study and they found out it takes on the average person over 60 minutes to read it.
Even when you read it, it's like so difficult to
understand. Some of the language, like you said, is like, legalese. Yeah. The average person can get it. So we have this opaque barrier between the consumer and understanding what their app is doing, what it's doing with your data, how it's handling your privacy, is it selling your data? So I think there's a need for a nutritional label for our apps. I want to see a little sticker in the app store that tells me this app, maybe using icons, right? Like when you, on the back of your shirt, there's a little iron telling you how to wash your clothes, right? Something similar. This app sells your data to third parties. It uses your camera. It monetizes your location data and
tracks your cookies, tracks your browsing data.
So,
like for Facebook,
the concept that I really started thinking about is
tracks your porn.
Nutritional labels for apps. You get what I mean? A little
I totally get it.
Simple visualization.
It's like bullet points on the app somewhere. It's like disclosure requirements.
Icons. Yeah.
All the things they do that are somehow using your data. It gives you notice without having to read the terms of service.
So data could be one category.
Yeah.
We should have another one called privacy. Yep. I want to know, are you tracking me?
Are you tracking my location? Are you selling my location data? Are you selling my, if I'm buying something on another service like Amazon, do you know that?
Yep.
If I'm saying something into the mic, like a keyword like obey, am I going to see ads on Instagram?
The next step will be like data handling. How do you handle my data? Where do you store it? How long do you keep it? And all of this...
And I think it should be simple, digested, bullet points.
It should be a nutritional label, just like the back of your Coca-Cola bottle, right? You have calories, protein, just a very simple visualization, like a graph, a pie chart or something, using icons, a quick and easy way for people to digest the terms of service without spending 60 minutes to read it.
I love the idea.
And
I love the idea. You know what we need? Federal Congress to do this. We need the Congress out in DC.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I think there's a much better way.
How so?
Machine learning. So imagine that. I should preface this.
You're saying fuck regulation. We can have a company that does this for everyone?
Yes. And I think that company should be Apple and Google in their Play stores.
Oh. Even better. I love because Congress is so slow.
No, you don't need Congress. You just need algorithms.
When you can take Congress out, that's great. When you can just use tech, man, that is incredible.
Well, think about it, bro.
You have a self-regulating, mechanism without the need to pass these laws, And
I want to say this isn't regulation. This is transparency.
I would agree. I would totally agree.
Another category, by the way, I think I missed the whole thing, should be country of origin. I want to know which country is this app created in? Who's funding it? Because I found out some crazy shit. A professional colleague I follow on Twitter, tweeted in response to the whole FaceApp thing a really fucking scary fact. This app, which is kind of like a whiteboarding app called Miro. It used to be called Real Time Boards, and essentially it's been becoming increasingly popular in the design community. People are hopping on there and kind of like diagramming their whole process, proprietary innovation stuff, and the latest feature they're working on. You have banks that are using it. You have cybersecurity companies that are using it. This app, I just found out, is funded by a Russian fund. Not just any Russian fund. I think Putin actually has a direct tie to that fund. It's called Skolkovo. Skollovo, I believe. I think it's sk.ru. And the Skolkovo fund has a bunch of startups they're putting money in. And I think Putin and the actual Russian government is directly dipping in there and financing these apps. So this is what you have. You have U.S. banks, police departments potentially, cybersecurity companies, legal institutions using this really cool and intuitive app, not knowing that it's backed directly by the Russian government, which could be in direct conflict. Now, the interesting part is that when I went on Google and I started doing research, I could hardly find the link between them. The company's not based in Russia. They have like a headquarters in Singapore. They have an R&D in Silicon Valley. I mean, as an attorney, these are traditional
I could
loopholes.
easily open
tactics.
a headquarters for them here.
You could recognize these are evasion tactics.
Yeah.
And they have a little map of all the locations, nothing in Russia, right? But Skolkovo is funding them. So this really got me thinking, like, today this is a silly filter app that ages us and does silly shit with our faces. But yo, what if a federal institution is using an app that has been directly funded by the Kremlin, right? So this whole approach to transparency, I don't want to regulate anything. I just want to bring transparency. And this reminds me of like my Google Scholar concept that I did, which is I take the same approach for scientific articles, right? Mm-hmm. I think the way you empower people and users is you don't regulate. You don't tell them this is bad, this is good. You show them the facts. Hey, listen, this app has been funded by the Russians. It sells your data to third-party apps. It uses your camera. It uses your mic. Do what you will with that information. Download it, don't download it, it's on you. But at least now you know, and you can make an informative decision. So I feel like this approach of bringing transparency, man.
Yeah, I would say this is not regulation, but transparency.
It's needed, yeah. Regulation gets a bit.
Regulation is when you get government involvement. You know.
And I think it's fairly easy. It's fairly easy for like Apple or Google to use machine learning, parse through the TOS, right? It's fairly standard legalese, and kind of try to extract certain things with confidence. Like we're fairly certain that you're using third-party data.
You know what I could see as so valuable?
What's up?
A startup that focuses just on that.
Potentially.
And that ties in with Google and Apple, you know. I could see so much value in that. That can go through terms of services and then break it down to what they do.
Where's Ty,
into a
bro?
bullet point.
Let's get Ty onto this.
I swear, dude, I could see so much value in that, man. People will love that.
We should hit up Ty and then see what he thinks about this. I think it's like NPL, right? Yeah. It's like you're parsing pretty standardized legal text.
Yeah.
And it kind of repeats, right? There's only so many ways you can sell your data. At some point, you're going to have to spell it out.
Yeah, and you can think about this means they could track your location. This means they can sell your location data. This means they can do this. It's just the potential, what they can do. And that's all people need to know. You know, this is what they can do with your data.
Yeah, yeah.
And the question is, do you want to use it or not? I think it's so great, man. You can have like a little bullet point, and then I think it's incredible. And
imagine this thing in the format of a nutritional label on the back of your protein bar. Just a little quick snapshot, little icons, maybe little graphs telling you like the severity of the privacy invasion. Just very simple, quick, so you can kind of glance at it and be like, oh shit, the red is all the way to the right. I'm not fucking with this. I'm not downloading it.
We could have like a privacy scale too. You know what I mean?
That's what I meant. Yeah, just like, little scale.
This is a 5 out of 5 when it comes out of privacy. Yeah.
So I'm envisioning this nutritional label for apps.
I think you're so on point when you say Google and Apple, and I think it's the people who actually man, they have a duty. I think they have a duty to put it on the App Store, whether it's the Google App Store, the Apple apps. You know, I think they have a duty, man. Forget laws. Like I think they have a duty to their own consumers.
Just an obligation.
Like an obligation, man. This is like
ethical perspective.
Yeah, just like we should do this. You know, we should let our consumers know what each and every app is doing, what kind of data they're taking. It's a big problem. It's a big issue. I need to know. I don't want to know about it after the fact. You know, who's going to read the fine print? Break it down for me.
On that note, just to prove that nobody reads fine print, iTunes had a clause in their terms of service where it says you cannot use this software to design or manufacture chemical, biological weapons and missiles. This is in iTunes. And I think it took years for somebody to finally spot that. Obviously, it was a joke, right? But it took years for somebody to be like, yo, you can't use iTunes to make chemical weapons.
You don't even have to put that as a terms of services. No, you know why?
They did it as a joke, just to prove a point.
Wow.
Just to prove that nobody reads those things. Incredible. And I think it took years for somebody to like find that clause and be like, oh shit, it's like an Easter egg they snuck in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I imagine they have so much great data as how much time people actually spend before they read it and before they actually download it.
I think the average TOS takes 60 minutes to read or something. I read something along those lines.
I would not be surprised, man.
No one does it, man. I've never done it.
Yeah.
End to end, the whole thing, never.
Never.
Maybe little glimpses, little sentences here. There's no way. Yeah. And I think that's almost like an obfuscation technique. If we bore you to death with 40,000 words and we sneak in that one sentence, like that's not fair. Right, like you need to highlight, and we need to standardize TOS, bro. Like you can't just.
It's like saying I got to read a novel before I hit.
Right.
Before I have a nap.
It's not fair.
It's just like no one has the time to read a novel.
I just think in 10 years, I tweeted this shit earlier. I really hope in 10 years we look back just in shock as to how opaque the consumer software is to the average consumer. Like we put shit on our phones that we don't know what it does. We don't know what it does with the data it collects. We don't know who's taking it, who it's selling it to, or why. I mean, the why is always profit, but sometimes it's more nefarious means. Mm-hmm. Like, at some point in human history, we did the same with food, right? Like, we put food into our bodies that we had no idea who put what in there, where it came from. The same thing is happening today with drugs. You know, we lost a friend from...
fentanyl.
Possibly.
Yeah. And other things, yeah.
The same thing today is happening with drugs. People are spiking that shit with different substances. You don't know.
Especially when you buy on the streets, you don't know.
And that kind of highlights the importance of transparency, man. If we need to know and we demand to know what's going into our bodies and our food, maybe it's time we need to do the same with our phones. This is the most personal device you have on you. Like, it sleeps with you. For a lot of people have it under their pillows. The mic could be on. It could record, Lord knows, your pillow talk and what you do in your spare time at 2 a.m. I mean, this is the most personal device that we have.
Yeah, I mean, there's apps that for people who snore where they record voluntarily. You know, who knows what's done with that data?
And here's a crazy study I read. This is like 5 years ago. Your phone microphone iOS asks you for an explicit permission. So if you use like a voice recorder app from the App Store, you would get a notification saying, hey, this app wants to use your microphone. Do you give it access, right?
Does that mean I give it perpetual unlimited access?
Let's say you hit no. Nah, you're not using my mic. So the developer has no way to access your microphone. So you think you're safe. But there is a study that basically found a way to use, I believe, your accelerometer or your gyroscope to detect tiny vibrations in the phone when you talk near it, right? Because sound that's emitting from my throat right now is just nothing but vibrational waves that are actually vibrating objects around me. So if my phone was a foot or two away from me, it ever so subtly vibrates, and the accelerometer can pick up on those vibrations. So just by accessing your accelerometer, which does not require permission, somebody could potentially recreate speech. Even though you said you can't access my mic, they're like, cool, we don't need your mic to know what you're saying. We have access to your accelerometer because Apple doesn't ask a developer to ask for permission. So the danger is, I mean, and that's like years ago. I read this shit years ago. Today, man, who knows what kind of techniques. I'm sure the accelerometers are better, and the new iPhones are more sensitive. You could pair that with the accelerometer, maybe come up with some new set of data. This is the most personal device that we have, and we're gladly willing to put an unknown app by an unknown developer
or
just
a
for
known
shits
app
and
by a known developer.
Yeah, just for shits and giggles.
Yeah,
and that's kind of scary, man.
Yo, can we pause for a second?
Yeah.